I've been running Omnius web development for like 6 years when I dropped out to focus on my business full time.
So maybe we gotta, get you in line with McDonald's for like one shift. Just to, no, I'm kidding.
I mean, the best example would be my own website
Okay,
because
yeah.
You now have a course. Tell us about that.
you have to almost see a website as a salesperson, but someone in high school could learn in like a week, like how to make a pretty good website.
Now let's talk about your book.
Like if I'm sort of half into something, I just shouldn't do it at all. I think I was sort of half into it with the book, but there are some that are just not in business anymore. And I'm like, hopefully that wasn't because of me.
Yeah.
I've heard them say like, oh, I'm not tech savvy. Like that's not for me. And I don't think you can get away with that anymore these days.
Now let's talk about AI.
I mean, I'm not at the point yet. I have a robot to do everything for me.
Yeah.
What is an NFT? I still need to figure this whole world out.
I did make 5 figures selling NFTs.
No
like,
way.
I'm sure you have a lot of ideas coming down the pipeline.
yeah, I do.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to a new podcast. My name is JJ Vola. Alongside here is my cousin Cal Vola. Welcome to What Do You Do podcast. Today we are joined by Andrei. Andrei, thank you so much for being a part of our podcast. Tell everybody who you are and a brief description of what you do.
Yeah, so I'm Andrei. I've been running Omnius web development for like 6 years. I'm 25, and yeah, I got into it just because I was really into websites, which is a really nerdy thing. Like I just taught myself websites in high school, and then over time it got into a passion of mine because I realized I could really help small business owners like almost change their whole businesses if their websites are really out of date. It seems like a really nerdy specific thing, but these days everything's online, so like it can really be a game changer if you're doing a good job.
Awesome. Good stuff. Well,
Yeah.
definitely going to dive into exactly what you do on a day-to-day and what you're going through now and all your next ventures. But let's take it back to, in high school, obviously from what we understand, you started this when you were 17. So you must have been in high school when you were excited to want to start designing websites. So what was that like initial idea, thought, why websites? Walk us through your younger years.
Yeah, so in grade 9, I just sort of figured out you could like write some code and then it ends up online. So I thought that was super cool, and then I just like forgot about it because when you're grade 9, like what do you know? Like you're busy with school and video games and all that. And then for some reason in like grade 12, I picked it back up, and the summer before university, I decided to like take it more seriously, and I took some online courses and yeah, decided, okay, let me try and make some money. And like the first website was like $300 that I charged for. So it was like so cheap. And yeah, so really it went from there.
What was that first website that you did? Do you remember what it was?
Yeah, I think it was jixmusic.ca. It's still up, I'm pretty sure. It's this guy I knew was doing like DJing. So he's friend of mine in a frat at U of T, and yeah, he was like, hey, could you set up a website for me? And I was like, yeah, sure, $300. And yeah, it's still up.
Wow, cool. Now, so that would have been obviously one of your younger years. Like, how old would you have been then? Was that when you were 17? Or
I was 18
18
then.
at that time.
Yeah, so I guess close to the first year I was just like learning and also busy with other things. So I think I definitely took too long to put something out there, but I think everyone at the beginning of their journey, like if I went back now and I was 17, like I'd probably be a millionaire by 25, right? But yeah, it's like when you're young, you're sort of wasting all this time on random stuff. You don't really know what you're doing. You're just trying a lot of stuff, seeing what sticks. So yeah.
And you're figuring it out too,
Yeah.
right? I mean, I think that's what a lot of us go to, and all of us can look back and be like, man, we wish we put money in Bitcoin. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
It's easy to look back and see how we could all be millionaires today. But even to where you are today, I mean, you're 25 years old now, right? And it's kind of funny because not like most of our guests, we had a fun little joke about it before the podcast. Like you've never had that 9-to-5 job.
Yeah.
Right. So you kind of were that entrepreneur during high school, coming out of high school. So maybe we got to, get you in line with McDonald's for like one shift just to, no, I'm kidding. Just to see what it's like.
I've actually thought about like trying a retail job just to like see what it's like. But I think that's a bit rude to whoever's hiring me.
Right.
Like, I'm just sort of wasting their time just to like get the experience, right? So I was like, nah, I won't do that.
Yeah, true.
Wow. Okay. So you're grade 12, you get your first sale, first customer, which is like
Mm.
a massive feat. You get your first taste of like money and you're like, okay, I can probably do more of this. So you're in grade 12, you graduate, and then you went to university or
Yeah, University of Toronto. So
okay.
I went there for math and physics, and yeah, it was mainly because in high school I did IB, which is like a sort of nerdy program, more math, more science, like no electives really. I had friends that were doing like outdoors classes, and I was like, I wish I could, but nah.
I'm too smart.
It wasn't really even my choice. Like I went to a high school 20 minutes away from me, like 20-minute drive. Left all my friends because my parents wanted me to do this IB program in Oakville. So I grew up in Burlington. It was in Oakville, and yeah, ended up being a good decision, I'd say, to do that. Um, I really didn't like it when I was in grade 8, and my mom was like, "No, you're going to this high school, and all your friends are going here, but no, you're you're going over there to do IB." But yeah, ended up being a really good fit for me because I just really liked math and physics, and I wasn't really too sure what I wanted to do in grade 12, but I was like, well, why not apply to a bunch of programs and not programs, universities. So I was just applying to math and physics throughout Canada. I took the SATs as well because I had some idea of going to Ivy League schools like in the US, like
Hmm.
Harvard and stuff like that. But my SAT grades were good enough to get in, but not good enough for a scholarship. And so it's like if you're an international student going there, it's like 50,000 or something like that a
Huge
year.
money. Yeah.
And so I was like, I won't even bother.
What was your score? What'd you get?
I got, I think like 2100, which back then it was out of 2400. So now it's like out of 1600. I don't know why they changed it, but yeah, that was like top 5%. So it definitely was like on the lower end of like Harvard. Like it was good enough to get in, but just barely. But then that was like I didn't have, the scholarship. I didn't have like really many extracurriculars either. So it was just that. So I was like, okay, let me not go do
Wow.
that.
And it's kind of funny to think about if you did and you got that scholarship, like where do you think you would be today?
Yeah, I never thought about that. I don't know. Probably networking with like billionaires,
Yeah.
sons and daughters,
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, I hear you. No, it's good. And obviously, we'll go back to so the course you took. What if somebody were to take that course today? Like, what could you expect to learn from that course? What did you take away from it?
Which course?
Like your university.
Math and physics.
Oh, math and physics. Yeah. Honestly, I think that's a very specific thing. I think one thing I had no clue about going into, and I wish uh, people told me, was once you do those 4 years of math and physics, you really have two options. One is to be three. One is to be a teacher, like high school teacher teaching math and science. The other is to go into finance, like banking, because actually they like smart people that are good with numbers and problem solvers. So just like an analyst job or something like that in banking. Or the third is to do grad school. So another like 3 years, get a PhD or something. And I found that out like in my second year or something. And I was like, wait, I don't want to do any of these.
Mm, sure.
So that's I think my love for it sort of like diminished because I was like, whoa, so am I supposed to just keep studying or like do research? Like, yeah, usually the normal path for like math and physics is like research, which some people love that, but it was just too like introverted for me. Looking back at it, I definitely well, I did try to go into computer science after my first year. I was like, wait, I'm doing web design. I took a Python class, like that's a computer programming language in first year, and I loved it. It was my favorite class. But then my math and physics grades were so low in first year, the computer science program wouldn't take me. So if I applied from high school, I would have gotten in because I had amazing grades in high school. But then because they account for your first year grades, and so yeah, I didn't get into computer science. And yeah, looking back, I would have either done engineering or computer science in university. I think that would have been a better fit.
Yeah. And then you spent all 4 years doing physics and
Yeah, math and
mathematics.
physics. So
Yeah.
I ended up with 12 credits, so needed 20 to graduate. So yeah, actually when I dropped out to focus on my business full time, yeah, I had 12 credits. So a lot of failed courses and yeah, a lot of failed courses.
Yeah, and that's just like I think it comes back to your purpose. Like when you don't see the light at the end of the tunnel from
Yeah.
like doing all this hard work and studying and whatnot, taking exams and whatnot,
Hmm.
and you really want to do something else, but there's the path there is really difficult to kind of get to.
Yeah.
I'm sure you probably could have applied yourself even more and really, succeeded big time in, computer science and
Hmm.
whatnot. So that's a little bit tough. But like, what would you say to other people that maybe want to go for university? Would you say, looking back now, was it a good fit for you to go to university, or would you do it all over again and not go?
Yeah, I think like if I could be 17 again, like that movie, it's a great movie, 17 again. Um, if I could, I would do either probably computer science just because I realized how much I loved it. And uh, like people think web design is like computer science, but most universities don't really offer that. Like there's programming and then there's like website design. These days, there's like no coding involved with website design. So, but programming itself is like really fun for some people. Like if you're like a puzzle, like you like puzzles and problems and like systems thinking and stuff like that, yeah, computer science would be perfect for me. Which I think the broader lesson that I would like give to young people wondering about this is like talk to someone that's several years older in this position. Like I had no clue. I have no clue now why I didn't talk to people like um, that were where I thought I was going to be in 5 years, right? Like I could have found someone in like second or third year or fourth year in math and physics, or someone um, in a job that was related to that. And I think it was for me specifically, but I think a lot of young people, lots of ego. Like especially me in high school, I did have a lot of ego because I thought I was like so smart, like oh math and physics and like getting 90s in this advanced program and all that. And I just mistakenly thought my life in the future was super clear. Like I thought, okay, I have everything. Like I'm 17. I know I figured out everything. Like I know what I'm gonna do and all that. And so I didn't like bother reaching out to anyone, any form of mentorship really, which I think is one of the biggest mistakes I made is just like lack of finding mentors or even just basic advice.
And that's the biggest reason for this podcast.
Yeah.
Really, I mean, that's where we're trying to help the younger generation and help them understand, the do's, the don'ts, what you've learned, and your
Mm-hmm.
trial experts and everyone that we have on the show. Because I mean, you really, like if like I wanted to be a car mechanic, right? For
Okay.
that same example, just to be in the mechanic and for every mechanic to tell me to get out. You know what I mean? Like, and then you're in there every day hearing like, oh, you're too young to be in here. Don't waste your life, blah, blah, blah. And then it's just like, okay, well, if that's the advice you're giving me, see you later. You know what I mean? But it's just funny that you mentioned that because that's really what it comes down to. A lot of people come out of the high school, like you said, having that passion or the idea of what you want to do. And then obviously completely goes in a different direction as you start to learn, evolve, and you're still evolving and learning today. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah,
It's
of course.
as you will into your 30s and all that kind of stuff. But just to talk about, when you started doing your web developments at a younger age, what were some of the jobs that you were getting? Like what kind of costs were they? Were you charging? Like obviously the first one was 300,
Yeah, yeah.
and then let's walk into like what it takes to design a website, especially 5 years ago.
Yeah. So I guess specifically that question, it's actually changed a lot over the years, in the sense that now I think it's really a commodity. So it's like when you're buying fruits, it's like $2 a pound or something. Like websites are so uh, easy to make now, and like um, there's so many people doing this that you need to find a way to differentiate yourself. And I think that's the case for a lot of business owners, that you can't just say like, oh, well, I mean, if you say I'm a lawyer, like, okay, you'll have a base income probably, you'll do a good enough job. But even for lawyers, like you need to differentiate yourself somehow. Website design as well. And so these days, like the past few years, it's really been more focused on like sales and marketing. like learning that and helping business owners do that for their own business. So I'll give you guys an example. A lot of business owners I speak to, they have like no offer that they really have in their business. Like the only call to action on their site is contact us, right? I'm sure you've seen every business site has like a contact us page, but because of how oversaturated most markets are, unless you're into like biotech or AI, you could get away with just saying contact us. But most markets, like there's so many business owners doing the same thing. You have to have like a specific offer that you're saying like, you're getting A, B, C, D, E. There's this guarantee, there's these bonuses, and there's this sense of urgency because of X, Y, Z, right? So that's one thing I've been talking to business owners, trying to, tell them like, hey, we need to make an offer for you. And that's like, people don't really see that as associated with website design, right? But web design in the sense of just executing on instructions, like I want you to make the homepage, about page, here's the text, here's the images, that I don't even pick up those jobs anymore. Cause like you could hire someone awesome in a, third world country for like $300, $400. And yeah, like if it's just executing basic instructions, right? So now and I think all website designers, you have to be more of a online consultant in a way, like a business consultant, to try and diagnose, okay, here's the problem you're having. Like maybe they're just not getting leads. So you have to be like, okay, here's a traffic plan to get you traffic. Here's a way to convert that traffic. And then here's a way to make sure that when you're on a sales call with them, they convert into clients. So that's, yeah, I guess that's how it's changed over the years.
Just to walk us through, like, give us no obviously names or anything like that, but what would be a good business model or business that's out there that you could walk us through for that example that you would design a website for?
Yeah.
Even just like a genre of business that, like, just to help us explain, like on the website you would have this, and then it would lead into a customer.
Yeah. I mean, the best example would be my own website,
Okay,
because
yeah. I'm sure you spent a lot of time with that one.
yeah. And I realize as a business owner, you have to get high on your own supply. Like I'm sure, in other cases you can't, but it's like, say you're selling life insurance and you don't have life insurance, you're probably not going to do that good of a job because you don't fully believe in what you're selling. And so, yeah, really, I pulled out all the stops from my own website. What was the question? I'm sorry.
Well, just like when you say you're converting, like essentially someone who shows up at your website,
Right,
and they
right.
convert to a customer. Like walk us through like the example that you said, like when you're taking
Okay.
someone to the whole process. Like what does a website should look like?
Yeah. So one thing I tell to clients is you have to imagine your website as almost like you have a salesperson that's at a networking event for you. Now, would you want that salesperson to walk up to someone and be like, hey, I want to sell you a website, or hey, I want to like be your lawyer? Like just that's the first thing they say? Of course not. But many websites, that's what they have. It's like instantly, no context, like work with us, which that's just one example of many that a lot of small business sites, mistakes they make. But yeah, you have to imagine the flow, especially of the homepage, which homepage is like a table of contents to me. So you want to make sure all the key information is on the homepage, like enough to make a decision. But usually people need to click through to specific pages. So the homepage is like the table of contents where, okay, someone really needs to see the about page. Well, they can easily find it from like, there's a little teaser about the company, and then they can click through to the about page and then make a decision there. Like, okay, these guys been around for 10 years, blah, blah, blah. They're legit. So the homepage, you have to really consider the user flow, like who's landing on the site, and then what do they need to look at to make that decision to work with this business. So yeah, like same thing with the salesperson, like they follow a specific script. They start building rapport, which on a website, I would say that's like sort of hooking people in with like a header that makes sense to that audience. So like, you don't want a header that's too vague. You don't want, I'd say that's really the main problem, like a header that's like, we do websites, right? Like that's super vague. Like mine's specifically A to Z websites for service-based business owners, because I don't want to work with e-commerce. That's a whole different thing. And A to Z is something I can explain later, sort of hooks them, that like gives them an idea of like, okay, this is super comprehensive from A to Z. And so, I mean, I don't want to get too in depth with all the website technicalities, but
Mhm.
I guess just to summarize that, like you have to almost see a website as a salesperson because that's what it is. And I actually wrote a book that I published on Amazon like 2 years ago called Building the Perfect Website. Um, and then like something like 24/7 salesperson, like your website is your 24/7 salesperson. So yeah, I think that's a mindset that people have to have when it comes to their websites. Like make sure it flows. Like don't start trying to get the sale right away. Header, about, usually testimonials, because people only listen to you if other people listen to you, right? So
Mhm.
so they want to see some past results you've done, and then you can talk about the services. And there's just a very logical flow that you don't have to memorize. Just ask yourself, like, what would a salesperson do in this situation, right? They build rapport. They talk about past work they've done, like um, people that go door to door for painting. A common script they have is like, introduce themselves, but then they talk about how we just finished your neighbor's, door or whatever, right? Because instantly people are like, oh, okay, so they're legit, like just a little subtle social proof. So yeah.
Yeah, and it's definitely because I mean we just had a website designed for Hayes Detail Products, our cleaning brand, but that's obviously more of an e-commerce, right?
Right.
So that's what you're saying is that you don't do e-commerce website or like
Hmm.
drop shipping or all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It's and that's for that example. Like I mean, to have that website designed, I think it looks pretty professional,
Hmm.
but it's about $500, right?
Hmm.
So, but difference of making it look a lot better than what it was because before it looked absolutely terrible.
Hmm.
But that was just taking the original like Shopify templates
Right.
and then just kind of put your own pictures into it versus actually getting somebody into it and then
Yeah.
going through it. But you're saying that your websites are more for like a service base. So like obviously for you, your service is to educate people how to train or like educate people how to make websites, or what service do you offer on your website?
Um, well, I'm a website designer, but like I was saying, it's more like at this point, it's more like consulting.
Mm,
Um, I'd say consulting at first, like we're still gonna do your website, right? But like I was saying, if it's just basic uh, execution of instructions, you can hire someone super cheap to do a good job for you on that. Websites like 10 years ago, yeah, you need to know all this specific language, like coding and all this fancy stuff. But now, like someone in high school could, well, I mean, I learned in high school, but someone in high school could learn in like a week, like how to make a pretty good website.
Mhm.
So it's not about that. It's about like understanding the business such that you're actually going to get what the business owner cares about. And so every single time I work with clients now, there's a big portion at the beginning of like almost business therapy. Like I want them to tell me about their problems. And then I'm like, okay, so let's try this out. Let's do this. And so yeah, that's where the business no longer is a commodity. It's like I'm a problem solver, online problem solver. Um, yeah.
And then, so if someone calls you, like, hey, Andre, I need help with my website. And then you'll go into their business and be like, okay, how do you get customers right now? How are you getting leads? Where are you
Yeah,
getting,
yeah, yeah.
and just kind of finding out everything about that business that you possibly can. And then they're like, okay, Andre knows what he's talking about because he's like asking all the important questions. And
Hmm.
ultimately, your job is getting, an ROI on that.
Yeah.
If they're paying 5, 10, $15,000 for a website,
Hmm.
they want to see that money come back to them.
Of
And
course.
over time, obviously, like it's not going to happen like that, but fully understanding, how you can bring value to the table and whatnot. So now you said that you work with a pretty big client in the hospitality space, or it's a chef, or
Yeah, it's called the Chef Upstairs.
okay,
So they do like cooking classes for adults, like experience, like when you go, usually for couples, like it's a big yeah, it's like a fun event thing and you learn like, okay, let's make this fancy dish. They also do like kids cooking camps. So like I think that's really impressive. Like you're teaching kids as young as 6 to like cook and stuff. So yeah, they're Toronto's biggest like cooking class experience like provider. There's a couple big ones in Toronto, but yeah, they're like the biggest. And yeah, that's been an interesting client of mine for sure. I met them through BNI, which stands for Business Networking International. It's this like international business networking
Mhm.
group. and like years ago. And yeah, I really like them because it's a like unique business model.
Mhm.
And the owner also, Greg Heller, is just like super open-minded to my ideas. Like sometimes I'll have some wacky ideas and he's like, okay, I don't like that one. I like this one though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's a marketplace, I suppose. So people can come to that website, they can pick a class that's available. And then on the other side of it, they have the person that can run the class and all that kind of stuff. So that's a pretty
It's not really a marketplace. Like they have their own chefs.
okay.
So it's just like a private business. Like they're not letting other business owners like on their platform. It's just them.
Mhm.
But yeah, people can go on the site and like book classes for themselves or for corporate events too. They do a lot of that actually, like corporate team building and stuff like that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Any other big projects that you've worked on in the past, Andre, that are pretty notable or?
Um, I would say that is the most. Uh, like there have been some, but they're like because it's been so long now, even though I don't feel that old. But there are some that are just not in business anymore, and I'm like, hopefully that wasn't because of me.
Yeah, yeah, true.
I know it wasn't, but
Because
yeah,
a lot of times it's
it's
like more like a one and done. Like obviously you design the websites. I'm sure you do a couple follow ups to see if it's good. But I mean, obviously, if the initial goal was just to design the website and then I mean that's it. Your service is done at that point,
yeah,
right? So
yeah. It's. I mean, I can't I can't like save a business like there. I mean, there was this one case. I won't mention the name, but it was a storage center, like you storage company,
yeah,
the warehouse, whatever. And I just cold emailed them. Ended up make improving their website. I got really lucky with that. I don't know how I got a significant client in like 20 cold emails, and then I tried like another 100, no clients. So but I'm actually gonna get back into cold emailing because it's actually a great platform. But anyways, yeah. So with them, I got them as a client, redesigned their site, and then it just like it wasn't they weren't doing too well, and I was looking around at the competition just like for free, even like I could have just sort of left. And I mean, if their business isn't doing the best, like I did what I was hired to do, right? But I was just sort of like I wanted to help, and I suggested you guys should be able to book storage, like get the software to book storage spaces online. Because I saw other competitors are doing that to like just make it easy to do online. Because they had it so that you had to call them or visit them in person to book a space. And I saw some competitors in the local area that were doing it all online. And I was like, you guys should look into this. Like I could help you like look into this. And just didn't really want to. I guess a lot of business owners, especially you're probably millionaires and whatever, not too pressed to to update things. And yeah, a few years later, they were bought out or went out of business or something. Because yeah, I mean, I guess they just stayed outdated. And obviously, these days, people want to do stuff like that quickly, easily online, right? Like, I don't want to have to call a space for a storage space. I want to pay like $100 and then get my like key code and go there and put my stuff in there, right? So, so that's one example. Like, you know, I was talking to them. I mentioned it a couple times, and they didn't want to, and then I saw years later they were disappeared.
and like so for example, like walk us through like what you would do for a cold email. Like you're saying that you're almost pretending to be the customer and see how the process works. Like what do you mean by cold email? Like you're just sending them an email saying like this is what they need to improve on and
Oh,
see if that
yeah. So cold email is just like when you reach out to someone over email to try and like basically sell your services. Now you can't do that to consumers. Like there's laws against that, like email spam laws, but you can do that to businesses. So yeah, you can reach out to businesses and be like, I think with them, it was like their website was down or something. It was something significant. And they're like, yeah, our website designer, I forget, it was years ago, but our website designer disappeared or something. I've heard that before. Like website designers just sort of like, I don't know, disappear. But yeah, so I just cold emailed them that. And they're like, we talked for a bit. I don't think we ever even got on the phone. It was just all through email, and it was like
yeah.
big clients. So yeah, that was beginner's luck, which I think actually really screwed me over because I thought I expected that to go forward.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
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 Now let's talk about your book. that you wrote.
Right.
So that's pretty cool to talk about. Like, obviously, like walk us through the idea of why you wanted to write it. You know, obviously it's on Amazon, so it must be. Is it on Audible as well?
Mm, I don't think so. I
No.
think because like someone would have to record that.
Yeah. Did you record it? No.
No,
Okay.
I mean, maybe I should, but
Yeah.
at this point, like I sort of see it as outdated. I have plans to update it.
Okay.
I still think like you could definitely learn from it. It's not technical. It's like for business owners. But now, based off things I've learned over the past few years, like I am planning on making a version 2, but it's just not a big priority for me. So maybe next year. But yeah, the reason I wanted to is just because I would talk about these concepts with business owners and finding myself repeating myself from time to time, which I think now I realize like that's going to be always the case. Like you can't expect everyone you speak to have like read your book and taken your course and done all this. Like some people you reach out, like they're busy, you're going to have to repeat yourself. So, but yeah, that was my reasoning initially. Like, okay, I have all these things I keep repeating myself. Let me put it into a book. It's more efficient. I'm a very like efficient, productivity minded person. And I thought it'd be like a cool project. I wrote most of it at the gym. So in between sets, I would like write notes on my phone, and then I just like edited it the month after. So it was like 1 month writing 2/3 at the gym on my phone, 1 month like editing, putting it together. Hired some freelancers to like do the formatting, the book formatting, because I wrote it in like Word or something, and the cover and all that. And yeah, it was like a fun little side project. Yeah.
Cool. And how
Incredible.
many books did you sell? Sorry.
How many books did I sell?
Yeah, do you know?
I think it's been like only 100 or something.
Okay.
Awesome.
Because it's more like, for me, it was more like a lead generation tool.
Right.
And I never really followed up with it, like to use it as that. So I think partly it was because I just didn't think it was worthwhile to focus solely on that as opposed to other avenues of like lead generation. But I definitely think like if you write a great book, it's and you leverage that, yes, you can get a ton of leads with that. So, but the problem is like writing a great book, and then that's the hardest part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I'm over the years I've started to realize I should really focus on doing things that I can take to the next level. Like if I'm sort of half into something, I just shouldn't do it at all. I think I was sort of half into it with the book, even though, yeah, I think it is good. And in it, there's like 20 chapters, the core things you need in a website. So like one of them is social proof. Like social proof is testimonials, reviews, awards, like all that stuff, social proof. Another chapter is about like copywriting, like writing words that will convince people to take action. And it's like 200 pages. So yeah, I go into some like interesting things, but I definitely think it could be like 10 times better.
Awesome. And like, what's your favorite book that you've ever like read? You know, kind of growing up and whatnot. Like, who's your favorite like author or business person that? I mean, you brought this book for us, which
Yeah.
is super awesome. So, Andre, thank you very much. Really appreciate you bringing that for JJ and I. So this is by Alec Hormozy. What's this kind of about?
Yeah, so it's called $100 Million Leads, and it just teaches you. It's the second volume in a series. The first one was $100 million offers, so it's how to create a compelling offer. And I read it last year, I think, or early this year, and it was just like a game changer. Like I learned so much about creating a compelling offer, and you guys should check that one out too. And yeah, this one's more about like, okay, now you have this compelling offer. Here's 4 ways to get leads. And I really like how practical he is. Like a lot of the advice he has, you can easily memorize it. Like a lot of business books, you sort of have to keep coming back to it and like, okay, what did he say? Like, what should I do now? But this one, it talks about warm outreach. So like people, email, social media, all that warm outreach, cold outreach. So like what I was saying, cold email, warm content. So when you post online to your followers, and then cold content, which is paid ads. So that's really like the core, like the 4 ways you can get leads. And it's just like, once I say that, it's like everyone can memorize that. warm and cold outreach content, right? And yeah, it just goes into detail about those. And yeah, just a great book.
Unreal, man. No, we really appreciate that, and
Yeah.
we got to give that a listen. That's for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
And yeah, so you have the book, and then I think we were just talking about you've been working your butt off on like an online course for web development and whatnot. So if anyone that's like listening to this podcast and is interested in web design, web development, you now have a course. Tell us about that, Andre.
Yeah, so I actually didn't make it for web designers or web developers. I made it for business owners because I do go into some technical aspects, but I do talk about all this like key stuff that I think business owners have to know these days. Like we're going into 2024, and so a lot of business owners over the years have said, I've heard them say like, "Oh, I'm not tech savvy, like that's not for me." And I don't think you can get away with that anymore these days. Cuz even if you're not specifically doing it, and I think a good business owner does have employees, they delegate responsibility. You're not just a freelancer. But even if you're not doing it, you have to know enough to make sure you're not getting screwed over. Like I've heard of stories of like someone paying for a $7,000 website and it's like slow, 5 pages and like broken, right? So if you're not educated about some of this stuff, and it's not just websites, I talk about ChatGPT, Mid-Journey. So that's like content, like text and image generation. I talk about copywriting as well, and offer creation and a lot of stuff that I think business owners, and then the technical aspects of that too. So like there's copywriting, which is like writing words that will get people to buy your stuff or take action somehow. But then there's also AI tools that can help you with copywriting. So yeah, this book is for like business owners, and or the course is for business owners and aspiring business owners that want to just stay competitive. In this, like we're living in a very interesting age, like a transition period where yeah, you just can't get away with not being tech savvy. And the course is like 15 hours of core content and then like 4 hours of bonus content. Like I make part of a site for 2 hours, so it's like there's some optional stuff. But yeah, I think I want to, I just launched it this month very recently, and I just want to like get students in there, get feedback. I know it's not going to be the final copy. So cause I can like go back in there and like remove a video and add one, like replace videos. And there's also a online private group for students of this course as well, where like business owners can connect with one another. So I'm trying to build that out as well. So yeah, I'm excited to, see how I can help business owners and aspiring business owners just stay competitive. And I know it's like it's a big process because I don't have like a big audience. Like if I had like 100,000 people on an email list or something like that, like the course would have been viral or blown up by now. But I don't, so I have to go actively out there seeking business owners that could use my help. So yeah.
That's for like small to medium sized businesses. You would say, is that who you're kind of targeting, or really anyone that's really thinking about starting a business can also take
Yeah.
your course and get enough info to be able to kind of launch and
So the first real section is helping someone figure out that doesn't have a business, helping someone figure out like what skills they could leverage into a business using ChatGPT. So yeah, if you have a business, you can just skip that. You could watch it just for fun. But yeah, it's aspiring and also small. Even I'd say mid-sized. I ended up making a section. I think was the last thing I made in the course. How to hire a freelancer to do this stuff for you, which a lot of business owners I spoke to, they really like that because they're like, okay, I'm not going to take this. I understand, like they're busy. They don't want to take it, even though, maybe they should to stay a bit tech savvy, but they can hire an employee. Either some that I've talked to want to like have an employee they already have take it just to like, get this information, maybe distill it in a more efficient manner to them. Or I have a section in the course on how to hire a good freelancer to like make your site for you cheaply and then do all this other stuff. So yeah.
Wow. Now, how do people go, or where do they go? Like, what website do they go to get this course? Your website?
It's on my website, yeah, but also Udemy. Have you guys heard of Udemy? It's like the world's biggest course platform.
Okay, yeah.
And Yeah, if you search up the modern MBA, it should come up.
Cool. I love that name.
Yeah.
The modern MBA.
Cool. And sorry, what is the title of your or your URL for your website?
My website is Omnius Web Development. It's a bit long, so but Omnius is OMNIUS. So a bit too close to ominous. Some people say that like ominous. I didn't realize that when I set my business up, but at this point, it's like I've gotten very used to the name. I think it's Omnius Web Development.
Sure,
Cool.
sure.
Now let's talk about AI. Like you just brought that up with ChatGPT. Like, how do you use it to your day to day? How do you incorporate it into your like maybe daily tasks? Because obviously, you really don't need. I think we're getting to an age where a lot of us don't really need assistance, right? Or have someone do the monotonous tasks of a business. How do you use ChatGPT or AI technology in your life?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not at the point yet where I have a robot to do everything for me.
Yeah.
That'd be nice.
One day.
Taking this podcast for me.
Yeah, I know, right?
I'd say the way I use it, and I think a use that basically every business owner can use it for, ChatGPT specifically, is just like removing the writer's block you get whenever, and it's not even like maybe you're not writing something, but like maybe you have to write an email, or I mean, yeah, most business owners just have a ton of emails to deal with, but usually you're writing something like on social media, or like maybe you are creating a landing page on your website or updating content on your website. So a really efficient thing to do is like you write bullet points like, okay, you tell ChatGPT, write me an email, here are the 3 key points, and then A, B, C. And then it puts together a very professional email in like 10 seconds. So that, I think, just like removing the writer's block, that's a really efficient way of doing it. But also it's, if you're an expert copywriter, for example, ChatGPT will be worse. But if you have like barely any experience with copywriting, it's going to be way better than what you could make on your own. So that's, I think, the case with AI now in general, in a lot of different fields. If you're an expert, the expert will be better, but it's significantly better than some beginner or even intermediate. And I think over time that's going to change, because like in the past, AI used to not be able to beat chess grandmasters, right? But then like 20 years ago, AI got good enough to be able to consistently beat the best chess players in the world. And this was 20 years ago. So I think like over time, AI will get even better than expert copywriters, expert, everything, expert website designers. So I think you have to adopt this technology if you want to stay competitive. And so that is sort of like the philosophy of my course. Like you have to, I do respect a lot of people that are like priests or monks, like that aren't living in the material world. But if you are, I think you have to adapt. Like if you're like, okay, I want to have a family, like make money, like do stuff in the material world, you just have to, adapt to technology.
And everything's changing so quickly now. I mean, I go to the grocery store, I'm self-checking out,
Yeah.
all of my stuff now, and I'm getting really good at it. I was making a comment the other day at Walmart, and everything's changing so quickly. So in the web development design space, how is AI going to affect that industry?
Yeah. So I think it's sort of already happened where the lower end work is like farmed out to technology. So, which has been sort of a good thing. So a lot of clients that are like in the $500 budget space, they could just do it themselves, or they could hire someone that can make it efficiently for them. But like the $500 budget space has never been like a great space to be in for business owners, right? And in my experience, and a lot of business owners say this, the people that pay you the lowest are the biggest headaches to deal with. And yeah, I've had like a client that was like $300, I think my second site. And they were just like a huge, like kept, pestering me like, hey, change this, change that, like 10 free sets of revisions. Cause I was silly enough to not have a contract back then. So they're just like, fix this, fix that. And they were more of a headache than like a $3,000 client, which it was just like, okay, just do what you got to do. Right. So I think web design is sort of, because of technology, has removed this lower end work, which I think is pretty good, but only if you're able to do higher end work. So if you've always been like the $500 website guy, then you're sort of screwed now. But if you have more to offer, which like I was talking about right now, like being sort of a business consultant, then it's actually a good thing.
I mean, that's so smart. Like the way that you're moving in the space is, I think AI is, like you said, like taking over the smaller budget stuff and whatnot, but you're becoming more of a consultant. You have the course now. You're,
Right, right.
you're kind of going top down and scaling, finding ways to scale your business, having a book and whatnot.
Yeah.
And I'm sure like one day doing seminars and, and all that kind of stuff and keynotes because you're just a smart guy. So,
Yeah, no, for sure. It's definitely, just the next move for you. You know what I mean? Like to walk us through like what you envision your next 5 years, from like your course to like how AI is going to help implement or whatever the case is. Like I'm sure you have a lot of ideas coming down the pipeline.
Yeah, I do. I definitely do. I think that's been my biggest problem is like I have so many ideas and then it's just too much. And one big thing I'm focusing on now is hiring more. So I have like freelancers that do some part-time work, but I do next year want to have like full-time. And same with like a virtual assistant to do a lot of this like admin work. So that I want to hire full-time as well. So that's a big thing is like, okay, I have all these ideas. Let me try and remove some of the bad ones, just focus on the good ones. But then also like I need to delegate better. So that's a huge thing for me. So yeah, I think over the next 5 years, I just want to grow this I don't know if I'd call it a movement, but just like the philosophy that small business owners have to adapt and become tech savvy and implement these online systems. So I'm a very big systems guy, like input, like algorithm, output that you care about, right? And so yeah, I never want to hear, oh, tech isn't for me. Like
Yeah, I know, right?
from someone, because and also it's actually not even that hard, because like 20 years ago, yeah, you couldn't expect 99% of people to learn how to like code a website, and you didn't need to, because it's very like arcane stuff. It's like very specific. But now I mean, tech is everywhere in our lives. So if you can like browse the internet and use your email, then you can learn a lot of this like core stuff, um, like this tech stuff. So yeah.
okay. Anyone listening to the podcast that like might be interested in getting a website done or whatever it may be, obviously, there's Wix out there. There's all these like pre-made websites or very
Yeah, yeah.
business card kind of websites. What can you say to them to kind of, what's maybe the best, like if they have a small budget and they can't quite afford you just yet, because you're obviously in the thousands of dollars or kind of up there. So what could you say to other people that are interested in the space? So.
Yeah. So I mean, one thing is that's partly who I made the course for. So usually people either have a lot of time or a lot of money, right? And so yeah, if you have a lot of money, then yeah, you hire a professional. If you have a lot of time, then you can spend 15 hours on the course, another 40 hours putting everything together, let's say. So yeah, that's one option. But also the advice I would give to people is you can put something together so quickly now. You're gonna learn more by doing than um, than just like watching like videos and like, I mean, you should take my course, but maybe not 10 courses, right? So I think action is the hugest, most important thing, stopping someone from acting. And um, yeah, Wix, Squarespace, they're all like pretty easy. And so yeah, just start, put something together, and then when you get stuck, that's when you like learn some more. But I think too many people get lost in the like fake work of like, okay, I'm gonna learn, and then you've been learning 3 months and you haven't done anything. Like, okay, at some point you have to actually act. So, yeah.
And one other thing that we kind of chatted a little bit earlier was like NFTs and
Yeah.
stuff like that. And what is an NFT? I still need to figure this whole world out.
Yeah. So I guess an example in like the real world is paintings. Like famous paintings like can go for like $100 million, right? But you can print out the exact replica visually for like $100. So why is that? Right? So NFTs, same exact concept. It's just online. like there's proof that this, it's NFT stands for non-fungible token. So proof that this token, which can be a piece of art, but it can be like a million different things. It could be a video game item. There's proof that this is the original, and then everything else is a copy. And so the main uses of it so far have been through like artwork. Like I'm sure you guys have heard of like Bored Apes or cyberpunks. Like yeah, just the original NFTs. And I did make 5 figures selling NFTs,
No
like
way.
not my own, like I bought and sold, so trading them. But then this year, I think like 2 months ago, I sold my last one because I was like, okay, this is just a big distraction. Like there's a lot, I had a lot of money like put into these virtual pieces of art, and I was like, I should just sell that, reinvest it into my skills, my business. And yeah, I think I bought my first ones like 2 years ago, and partly a distraction.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But yeah, this year I've definitely gotten more focused to just remove all the distractions. Because I also got more clear on my mission. Because for a while I just saw myself as like website designer, and I was into like, oh, this pays the bills, whatever. But now I'm like, okay, not just website designer. It's way bigger than that, and it's like what I do could make a huge impact on like my aim is to help 1 million small business owners by 2030. Because by 2030, who knows? Maybe we'll all be plugged into a machine and like Vivani.
Yeah,
Who
we'll all
knows?
be Iron Man. Yeah, yeah, in our own way.
For sure.
And that is your mission: 1 million small businesses, helping them out.
Yeah,
and
by
it's-
2030.
Wow.
And so that's like this course. One mistake I made with this course is I waited too long to launch it. Like I should have made something smaller to start off with. But yeah, it's out, and I think definitely courses and stuff like that is going to be a key way that I'm going to be able to help people at scale, because there's really no business except for like Amazon that can personally service like 1 million people, right? Like it's going to have to be some form of selling information or like software. Because just me, like, even if you have a team of like 100 people, you can't like make 1 million websites.
That's great, Anthony. Well, it's been absolutely a treat having you on our podcast today. We really appreciate you coming aboard and telling us your journey, your story, and your vision, your future. All great podcasts must come to an end, unfortunately. But one thing we love to do and ask every guest before we leave is if you could give yourself 20-year-old advice, what would it be?
Yeah, so I was actually thinking about this because it's a question I've thought about over the years. And so I actually have 5 things that I think would be really important. So one is um, the closest 5 people is spend time with, as well as the 5 key hours you have per day. So what I mean by that is like you need to make sure the 5 people you interact with on a day-to-day basis, and it could be online too. Like if you're watching some online figure like Andrew Tate or something, be careful. You have to be spending time with the right people, online or offline. So that's one thing. Because yeah, when you're 20, usually most people get tripped up because they're hanging out with the wrong crowd, right? If you're hanging out with the right crowd, you can like make a lot of mistakes on your own. You'll still get just naturally on the right path. 5 hours, what I mean by that is like you could, watch a movie, you could play video games, do stuff like that. But if you spend 5 productive, like focused hours on a significant task, moving the ball forward, you're going to get super far in life. So a lot of 20-year-olds, they get lost in like doing all this fun stuff. And like, you can't tell them like, no, work all day, or just like learn and work. And you can't, right? You're 20, but just spend like 5 hours. And that's going to be enough to like hugely move your life forward. Like if you spend 5 hours learning like computer science over the course of a year on your own, you're going to know enough to actually be hired for an entry-level job. So that's what I mean. 2 is coping mechanisms. Is a lot of people know like, okay, don't do the negative coping mechanisms, right? Like alcohol, stuff like that. But be careful about the positive ones as well, because studies have shown that people that have coping mechanisms, like a lot of them, they just stay fixed in life. They don't grow. They don't like do anything different, because whenever something negative happens, they have this coping mechanism. They can just meditate or go to the gym, when like maybe in reality, who knows what problems they're dealing with, but they should deal with those. But instead, they have this coping mechanism. So yeah, 20-year-olds, I think, be careful getting into both negative and positive. Now, positive is good. Everyone needs some, right? You still need to meditate, pray, like go to the gym, stuff like that. But just be careful to not do that too much. I think that's one reason why older people never change, because they've just installed all these coping mechanisms into their life. So whenever something bad happens, they just have those. Um,
It's very interesting because, I mean, when something bad happens, I like to go to the gym or like,
yeah.
work it out and all that kind of stuff. So so what's the middle ground there of the negative? So drinking, drugs,
Uh-huh.
whatever it may be. And then the other one is meditating, going to the gym, having some type of release or talking to a therapist or whatever it may be. What's the middle ground there?
Yeah. So I think you just have to watch and see, like, is there a pattern in your life? Like, are you consistently doing things or putting yourself in a situation where you're getting to the point where you now need a coping mechanism, right? Like, say you have, okay, here's a clear example I think a lot of young people are dealing with. Like, say you have a toxic relationship. Are you, instead of dealing with the relationship, some huge argument, you're going to the gym? Like, maybe you should think about, okay, is this the person I want to spend the rest of my life with instead? Right. So if there's a pattern, if there's like a one-off thing, like, God forbid somebody dies, then yeah, it's awesome to like meditate, go to the gym, have a period in your life where you're engaging in this behavior. But it's about patterns. Like, are you seeing something happen over and over again? Maybe you have too many coping mechanisms, so now you don't really have that energy to actually take action, right? The third one is like humility, because like I was saying earlier, when you're 20, when you're younger, you think you have everything figured out, and I think I could be so much further if I had mentors that could, yeah, just give me advice. But I was had a very big ego when I was younger, and I think a lot of, especially young males, I think that's a big pattern. Like, you just have a big ego, and so yeah, humility is a huge one. Fourth is unproductive consumption. So I was, even when I was like 15, I was reading like self-help books, productivity, business books, all this stuff, and podcasts and videos and all. And it was almost like a full-time job, like outside of school, just learning. And I realized that's a bit higher than entertainment. So ultimately, if you're consuming all this stuff, it's really just a form of entertainment because you're not really taking action. So I would say do something productive. So like make something, put it out into the world, get feedback. So that's really good. Or have structured consumption. So like an online course where like you're learning something start to finish and now you have to do something with it. So that's good. But like just subscribing to something, or obviously you need to consume that as well, but view that more as entertainment. And then the last one is don't think of investing into like assets that young, which I know is sort of like, I tried to think of things that are sort of opposite to what the normal advice you may hear. But the reason I say that is because like most things, like a really good return is like 10, maybe 15% a year, right? If you have $10,000, you'd make like $1,000 a year off that. Like it's in an index fund or something, right? And that's really big picture. That's nothing. But if you invested that 10,000 into your skills, into knowledge, like a couple online courses, a mentor, for example, because usually successful people won't want to help you out significantly for free, like a coach, something like that. Or maybe like there's coding boot camps, like where you learn like super intensely over 6 weeks and you learn like a massive amount. Those are usually in the thousands. So if you invest all your money into skills instead of like assets, then you'll be much further several years down the line. Because I think until you're making at least like 10,000 a month, you should probably upgrade your skills, right? Like, because you'll never be a millionaire just like making 10% on your money. Like maybe you will in like 40 years, right? But if you constantly reinvest in yourself, like, okay, now I'm making 3,000 a month, now I'm making 4,000. And with the extra money you have, you have to save it up, right? You need at least a few months of like emergency funds. So you have that in cash, depending on your life situation. But like if you're 20, you're probably, you don't have a family, bills to pay and stuff like that. So just constantly reinvest in your skills to get to the point where you're making enough money. Now investing makes sense. Like if you're making 20,000 a month, you can reinvest a ton of that into like something that's actually going to impact you. But if you're making 3,000 a month and then you're saving like 500, like you're not really not going to get too far, right? So those are the 5 things.
Wow, you know
Incredible.
what?
Good
Long
job.
answer, but you know what? Probably our most insightful and well said.
Incredible.
So
Thank you.
really
Wow.
appreciate that
Yeah.
response, and definitely gonna watch that over and over again
Yeah.
when I edit this podcast, because that was a lot of advice to take in, and we really appreciate that. And it just goes to show how much you've learned and how much I guess since you were 20, being 5-6 years ago, that's what you're taking away now.
Yeah.
Right. So, and a lot of people really don't take that advice until they get into the late 40s or 40s, maybe 50, 60, right? So you definitely have a extreme bright future, if not already, So thank you, Andrei, for sharing that. Now, I think we kind of already touched about it a little bit earlier, but what goals do you have for yourself for the next 5 to 10 years?
Yeah, so I want to build out my business. I want to have full-time employees. And I wouldn't say I have anything specific, just because like if you don't hit your goal, you'll feel like you made a mistake. But then if you do hit it, you'll think, oh, my life's too predictable. So I'm thinking more about like the type of person I want to be. So more focused, and then also the type of people I want to help. So probably it's still going to be small business owners, like 1 to 50 employees. And the type of person I want to be, just like very focused, big picture thinking, just very systems oriented. And I guess the last thing I'll say, a recent thing I've realized is cycles are really important to have. So you can't just like have periods of intense work without very deep like relaxation or fun, right? So just going in cycles is really going to get you the furthest. Not like you're repeating the same thing, no, but like a cycle where you're progressing, right? Like I had a period that I sort of am ending now, of like 3 months not eating lunch, so just eating dinner and beyond, just to like focus from like when I wake up around 7 to like 5. I'll work out in between there, but not eating, just because mental focus is like huge when I do that. And also the time too, like I eat a lot, so like I'd be in a food coma at lunch for like 2 hours. So but now I'm going to Romania on Friday, so I'm going to have a period like I'm going to be eating more. I'm going to be eating lunch and like just relaxing more, and I'll still work mornings, but just like, okay, now I have this period of like relaxation. So I want to just, I guess, do things like that more and just constantly progress. I won't know where I'll be in 5 years, but like I know I want to go in this direction, right? So yeah.
That's great.
Incredible, man. And then, so if anybody wants to reach out to you, get any advice from Andrei, check out the course, feel free just to let everybody know how they can get in touch and find out more about Andrei.
Yeah, I guess the easiest way is like you could look me up on LinkedIn, Andrei Roncea. Also my business, OMNIUS Web Development. Yeah.
And the course will be live when you get back from Romania, probably when this airs on Udemy.
It's live. Yeah.
It's live. Oh,
Yeah.
we're good to
Yeah,
go.
yeah, yeah.
All right, so go check out the course. How much is it?
It changes depending on Udemy's AI.
Okay.
But it's between like $30, $100.
Oh,
So
hit it up, guys.
yeah.
Incredible guest.
Well worth it. I think we're going to sign up for it too, because I mean, a lot of things that we can incorporate to even our own businesses moving forward. But wow, Andrei, thank you so much for being a part of our podcast. Really appreciate that. And to everyone who is listening, if you enjoyed this podcast, be sure to hit that like button, hit subscribe so you don't miss out on any future podcasts. And if you have any questions, or if you'd like to see any future guests on this podcast or certain careers, be sure to comment down below, and we will catch you in the next podcast. See you guys.
Yeah.
Wow.
Bro, great job.
All right.